Hi, and welcome to our presentation. You may have a person, but you are not a person. On the first slide, it tells you you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. I much prefer to say you shall know what is true and what is true shall set you free, because truth is an opinion. That's why in court they say to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, which means give us your opinion, your whole opinion, and nothing but your opinion. So we much prefer to tell what is true. Our thought for today, what we're talking about, we've said it before, you have a person, but you are not a person. So we need to define person and what a person is. So you see the picture of the straw man. Okay, we don't want to be the straw man or locked into a box until we die. We want to be free. So let's have a look at the Interpretations Act, 1889, section 52 and 53. So on chapter 63, section 19, in this act and in every act passed after the commencement of this act, the expression person shall, unless the contrary intention appears, include any body of persons, corporate or unincorporate. That does not mean when it says unincorporate that there is the living, the man. It does not mean that at all. You have corporate bodies and unincorporate bodies. The Crown Corporation itself is an unincorporated association. It is a private association. So when it's saying a body of persons, corporate or unincorporate, all it means is that it is literally a company. It is not unincorporate, does not mean man and woman. We support that. The Interpretations Act, that stands for all of the UK acts and statutes. But we can also look at other law dictionaries. So if we have a look at Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, 1991, person in general usage, that means general usage if you are actually talking normally, a human being, a natural person, though by statute term, may include labour organisations, partnerships, associations, corporations, legal representatives, trustees in bankruptcy, or receivers. So make sure that you know what that means. So when it says in general usage, so if me and you were sitting in a pub and we're talking about whatever we wanted to talk about, and we bring up the term, what does a person mean? Then we'll be talking as normal. However, and it states there, though by statute term. So when we're looking at anything that they call law, they're actually not really talking about law. They're talking about statute, statutory legislation. And statutory legislation can only mean a corporation of a type or a legal fiction when they mention the word person, which is why if you have a look at your legal fiction when it is written out by any government organization in any department, it is always written in full capital letters. If you have a company, a corporation, a private limited company from Companies House, they can only write the company name down in full capital letters, dog Latin. It is not English. You cannot write English like that. Therefore, whenever they see or whenever you see the word person used and it's your legal fiction written, they are talking to you or about you as though you were the legal fiction, the corporation. So the Interpretations Act 1889, Chapter 63, Section 19, an act passed before or after the commencement of this act, the expressing person shall, unless the contrary intention appears, include a body corporate. They changed the Interpretations Act in 1978, but that part of it remains exactly the same. So they are still stating point blank that a person is a body corporate. So let's have a look at Chambers Dictionary of Etymology. So look at the word a little bit deeper. So the word, it comes from the ancient Greek persona, which means a character in a drama, an actor, or a mask wearer. That's exactly what it says, a mask wearer. So the image on that you'll be looking at, the stone mask type there is the type of Greek mask that they would be wearing when they did these dramas and these plays, and they had the actors wearing them. We don't know what that is on the other side. If we have a look at our person, it's like our Monopoly piece on the board, and it allows us to play the game of commerce. but only if we can learn how to actually use it. Because in the world of commerce, which is statutory legislation, they are always trying to remove your fiat currency from you. Even if it's just fake fiat currency, it is quite handy when you want to go down to the supermarket to buy some food. So they are always trying to strip you of your assets. Therefore, we need to learn better how to play the game. So J.K. Rowling, she has full copyright over the books, the series, the films, whatever it is of Harry Potter. Why? Well, she created it. She created it as a fiction. That means it's not real. So everything in the books and everything in the film Harry Potter was just complete fiction. Exactly what they have done to us and created a 2D fiction. So there is you living, the man, the woman, but there is also your legal fiction, which is not real in any way, shape, or form apart from a piece of paper. It is a legal fiction, your full capitalized name or your person. So a legal fiction, Chambers' Dictionary of Etymology again, something made up, invention of the mind. Then in medieval English, counterfeit or fabricate. It's fiction. It's not real, just like your birth. B-E-R-T-H. So let's have a look at the more fiction then. Let's have a look at the time and the date. So the Gregorian calendar that we're all living by now, introduced through the papal bull Inter Gravissimas, and that was in October 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII, adopted by most Catholic countries. England adopted it in 1752, and Russia didn't actually adopt it until 1918. But this is why you only agree what date it is. You only agree what day it is. There's no day is different from another. Nature does not have a day, and there certainly is no date, and there certainly is no time involved. Nature looks after itself. It gets dark when it's meant to. It gets light when it's meant to. It rains when it's meant to, if there's no chemtrails. Winter comes and summer comes all in its own time. It has nothing to do with Pope Gregory XIII or anybody else that wants to ram the dates and everything down our throats. This only exists because we agree that it exists. It definitely is not real, and it is complete and utter fiction. Again, for the time, it only exists because you agree that it exists. It is a fiction. So there is no such thing as a time and a date. It's just literally made up on the spot. They changed the Gregorian to the Gregorian calendar. The dates before that were different. So now we're accepting a new set of dates. And now if we look at the time, we know when it gets dark, we know when it gets light. But they even try to mess around with that by cutting a piece off the end and adding it on to the beginning. It's just absolute craziness. So again, time itself, and we all know this, right? Times and dates, they do not exist. It is a complete and utter fiction. Let's have a look at contractions versus labor pains. So I remember growing up that they would talk about mothers going into labor and having labor pains, preparing to have a baby. Now, when they talk about it, they talk about contractions, as if they're making a contract. So what we're doing then, we're actually saying is not only is the son or daughter entering into a contract, but they are contracting, i.e. making smaller. You know what we mean by contracting? So it's smaller, it makes it shorter, it makes it smaller. So they shorten their title. What do we mean by the title? We are granted dominion by the Creator. We are part of the Creator. We are the heir to our estate on earth. We literally are the master or the mistress of our own estate, granted that by the Creator of the universe, the universal power. So we, as master or mistress to our estate, we are entitled to a share of the wealth of the country where we were born. So what they try and do is they try and hide this, and they're always trying to trick us. They're always trying to fool us. So they get rid of the master and make it the MR to stand for Mr. They get rid of the mistress and they make it Miss. But then we are cloned as a 2D fictional entity. So what happens at the birth, when the baby comes through the birthing canal, The canal, as in a maritime word, they cut the cord and the placenta. The cord and the placenta are then removed, and that is what actually creates the birth certificate for the placenta. Not you, the living baby. It's actually for the placenta that will be dying very soon because it's been taken away from the mother. So you get your birth certificate, and it tells you on your birth certificate you cannot use that as identification because it's not you anyway. It's the placenta. It is your slave docket. It is your ticket of slavery. So, as I've said, in the early 1930s, mothers were being offered paid maternity leave upon registration of a birth. What is that? That is called compelled benefit. So that was to assist the government to trick you into tacit consent to be a person. So you were turning your sons and daughters into children, i.e. persons. Why is it so important that you can be classed as a person rather than the man or the woman, the boy or the girl? It has to be changed from being born to being birthed. Then we are under maritime law, Roman civil law, commercial law. It's all commerce. It's all business. So we are treated as a business. It's all a legal fiction. It's completely made up. None of it is real. Everything that we do, everything we live through is maritime. We literally are a ship at sea. So let's get back to the birthing of the living baby. After contractions, instead of having labor pains, the mother is now having contractions. So the mother's waters break. The waters break. Again, it's all about maritime, about water. So the son or daughter, then they're going to enter the birthing canal. We mentioned that before. Why is it a canal? Why is it maritime again? Why is it talking about maritime, ships, waterways, canals? It's all maritime law. So you were birthed in a delivery room. That's what they do. They take the mother to the delivery room. So what is a delivery? So we need to check Bouvier's Law Dictionary. Why Bouvier's? Well, I like to go a lot on Bouvier's Law Dictionary because it's never been changed since it was written. If you have a look at Black's Law Dictionary, I think they're up to the 11th, possibly more now, the 11th edition. They keep changing the meanings. They're trying to hide more and more meanings. Bouvier's just gets reprinted with the same definitions as it was when it was first done. That's why we like to use Bouvier's. So delivery deals with contract law. That's where it comes from. So delivery or conveyancing or transferring of property. So a birth certificate, what it actually is doing is transferring property, transferring of a deed from the grantor to the grantee in such a manner as to deprive him of the right to recall it. Let's say that again. The transferring of a deed from the grantor to the grantee in such a manner as to deprive him from the right to recall it. So what they've given away, they can never get back. So when you're registering something, you are giving it away. You're giving away the title to it to another that is conveyancing or delivering. So have a look at the car registration form. It tells you there this document is not proof of ownership. They're slapping you in the face with it. They're actually telling you straight to your face that you do not own the car. You've registered it now, so the DVLA literally own the car. So the birth certificate then becomes a bond, and the bond is traded on the Securities Exchange. Your national insurance number or social security is your bank account number. All of you have a treasury account, but not where you might think. You are all linked to the IRS in the United States of America. Now, these bonds do not belong to you, so I don't want you to try and run off and try and find them and cash them in. There's loads of people always trying to find their mystery bond and trying to become millionaires with it. It's simply credit, and you create the credit. How do you create the credit? Because there is no money, just credit, and it's called currency, fiat currency to be precise. So this currency, it's literally a current leading to the sea, guided by the banks of the river. Banks guide the current to the sea, or the sea with a double E, the Holy See, the Vatican. Everything is maritime, even your liberty. People talk of liberty and they don't really comprehend what it is. Citizenship, membership, township, apprenticeship, workmanship, hardship, friendship, kingship, partnership, sponsorship, championship, leadership, scholarship, fellowship, relationship, craftsmanship, dictatorship. We're getting to know a lot about that lately, aren't we? Censorship, a lot of that as well. So let's go on more. Frozen assets, that's what we talk about. Liquid assets, banks, banks of the river, drowning in debt, float the company, currency, company buoyancy, keep your head above water, runs a tight ship, all maritime. So it's all about indoctrination. And it is indoctrination and hypnotism. And it starts from birth. So once you're old enough as well, they actually send you off to 12 years of government indoctrination. Some people may call it a school. So that is approximately 360 registrations in a year. So what is the registration? So if you think about the registration, the teachers are staring at you, staring at all the boys and girls. And then they actually announce your name. So when I went to school, you just had to answer yes, sir, or yes, miss, when they said the name. The thing is, this is spelling. This is witchcraft. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. But what they're doing is they're reading out your legal fiction from the register. And then you're answering it. So you're agreeing that you are that person, the person. That is witchcraft. So again, you don't need to believe it, but it's just happening. To break free from this indoctrination and this hypnotism, we need to know thyself. You are man or woman created by the Creator of the universe, and you are granted dominion over the earth. You don't understand, i.e. in standing under their authority of you comprehend. You are not a person. We are under the law of the Creator. We are not under statutory legislation. And we do speak true. We don't say the truth because that is purely an opinion. Let's have a look at the corruption of our freedoms and our divine birthrights. This is the totem pole of life, as I like to call it. So on the left-hand side, we see as things should be. At the top of the totem pole, we have the Creator of the universe and everything in it. Directly below the Creator is man and woman. We are at the top, underneath the only authority that exists, which is the Creator. Man and woman to live together created society. So to help society run, we, the man and woman, created government. And the government has its public servants, its MPs, and their clowns in costumes, and the councils. And in the council, you have Agnes in the office, and the lockdown lovers, I think, are at the bottom. The legal fiction of it, the made-up thing, the fiction, the government put themselves at the top. They say they are sovereign. They can never be sovereign. They are servants. Below the government, we have the public servants, then the MPs, the councils, then their clowns in costumes. Then they have man and woman. And underneath man and woman, they put the Creator. They would like to get rid of the Creator completely. So this is why they put us into slavery. Just in case you don't think you're in slavery, let's have a look at a normal 9-to-5 job. So we get dressed to go to work. We're working in a box at 9-to-5. So what do we have around our neck? We have a collar around our neck. Then we have a tie to lead you, to pull you. And then we have cuffs around our wrists. So who else wears a collar and cuffs and a tie? Change that material to metal and you can see it's a slave, a slavery, the trappings of our slave. Are you a flea in a jar? Fleas in a jar experiment was the fleas were placed in a jar and they jump out and they go all over the place. So then they fitted a lid. Then when the fleas were trying to jump out, they kept on hitting the lid and hurting themselves. So they started to jump lower and lower until they no longer hit the lid and they didn't get hurt. 3 days later, once the behavior was amended, they removed the lid. However, the fleas stayed in the jar and they just kept jumping lower. They did not try to jump out. And then they noticed even the new offspring of the fleas replicated that behavior. It was learned behavior of not jumping out of the jar. So the artificial limitation is passed from generation to generation. So does this experiment sound familiar to you? Is this what was done to us? And is this what we've passed on to our sons and daughters and created now as children that are obedient slaves to the system? Natural law is true law and the law of the Creator. Everything outside of that, the Creator's natural law or the Creator's law, is a contract. If a man or a woman causes harm or threatens to cause harm to another man or woman, they commit a crime under natural law. Everything else is a contract. Man or woman can contract with another man or woman. A corporation can contract with a corporation, but a corporation cannot contract with man or woman. Government agencies are all corporations, all councils, all police forces, all courts, social services, HMRC and revenue. Okay, it matters not if they're for profit, it's just corporate bodies. They are corporations. They cannot say they are not. They are all on Duns and Bradstreet. I have looked up my local HMRC office and it's on Duns and Bradstreet. I have looked up my local police force and it's on Duns and Bradstreet. A corporation, a government body or not, they must follow contract law. All corporations, governments included, they must follow contract law. So contract law and contracts, they have to be done correctly. Parties must be competent to contract. There must be free and genuine consent from both parties. You have to have full disclosure of everything involved in the contract. Nothing can be hidden. You both have to give valuable consideration. What that means is you bring something to the table and the other party also brings something equally valuable to the table and you exchange it with each other. There has to be a certainty of terms. There has to be a meeting of the minds. And we also need a signature. And this creates privity of contract. What is privity of contract? Privity of contract means that no one outside of the contract can become involved. So it's a doctrine which prevents a person, or a third party who is not a party to a contract from enforcing a term on that said contract. Just read that again, okay? A doctrine which prevents a person or a third party who is not a party to a contract from enforcing a term on that said contract. What does that mean? What does that sound like? Okay, which person or persons, corporations, is it that always breaching privity of contract? Debt collection agencies, solicitors, bailiffs, they are always coming in, breaching privity of contract, trying to enforce something that was not in that contract. Brings us to the end of part 1. So keep an eye out for part 2.